A lot is happening in the NFL, and like all the other teams, the Steelers will now have a week off. On the 7th, we'll have our first official game against the Jets, and I hope the team is ready for this season. 3 players are in Omar Khan's sights, and I'll tell you all about it in this video. This will be a very straightforward video, no fluff. I just ask that you hit the like button below, but only do so if you're a true Pittsburgh Steelers fan. If you feel like it, write something like, "Go Steelers! My heart bleeds black and gold." The Pittsburgh Steelers are heading into one of the most pivotal weeks of the offseason, just hours away from finalizing their 53-man roster, and the trade winds are howling through Pittsburgh. With roster cuts looming, the front office led by Omar Khan is actively exploring trade options for several players, trying to squeeze every ounce of value before they hit the waiver wire. At the center of these discussions is quarterback Skylar Thompson, and the sense around the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex is that Pittsburgh is pushing hard to move him before Tuesday's deadline. Thompson, who entered the summer as a camp arm, has unexpectedly surged up the quarterback depth chart. Once clearly behind Will Howard, the dynamic has flipped due to Howard's placement on IR and Thompson's solid preseason performance. Yet, despite this climb, he remains the third-string option behind Aaron Rodgers and Mason Rudolph. That status puts him squarely in the trade spotlight, especially with news that Las Vegas Raiders' Aiden O'Connell could miss significant time this season. With Thompson's experience, just a game away from a playoff win in his rookie year, the Steelers may hold a surprisingly attractive chip in the quarterback market. It's not just the Raiders who could be in play here. Around the league, teams like the Saints, Rams, and potentially even the Jets could see value in adding a competent, young backup with real NFL snaps under his belt. The return on a Skylar Thompson trade isn't expected to be massive, maybe a 6th or 7th round pick, but the Steelers know this is a rare opportunity to capitalize on a third-string quarterback with tangible upside. And with the Steelers already flush with draft capital, particularly looking ahead to 2026, this would be another win for Khan and company. Skylar isn't the only name making waves on the trade front. Defensive end DeMarvin Leal is another candidate being discussed. A former third-round pick, Leal simply hasn't fit in the Steelers' 3-4 system. He's been shuffled around, unable to secure a clear role, and now finds himself on the outside looking in as players like Jack Sawyer and Nick Herbig have solidified their spots behind Watt and Highsmith. Leal is more naturally suited as a 4-3 defensive end, and it's that misfit that makes him expendable in Pittsburgh but potentially valuable to a team running a scheme better suited to his talents. The Steelers would be selling low, but even a late-round pick could be a worthwhile return for a player whose developmental arc may be better served elsewhere. And teams do sometimes pounce on players with potential who simply need a new environment. Just look at Isaiah Bugg's bounce-back stint in Detroit after leaving Pittsburgh. Leal still has upside, and it only takes one defensive coordinator believing they can unlock it to make this trade happen. Then there's Corliss Whiteman, the punter who had been competing with Cameron Johnston all preseason. Johnston clearly won the battle, and the writing was on the wall after Whiteman's 40-yard clunker that seemed to give the Steelers the excuse they needed. Whiteman, despite losing the job, still holds value. He's 30, has game experience, and for teams looking to stabilize special teams, he could be a plug-and-play starter. In fact, among the 3 main trade candidates, Whiteman may fetch the highest return given the perennial need for punting help across the league. It's realistic that the Steelers could flip Whiteman for a 5th or 6th round pick, especially to a team unhappy with their current punter situation. Again, the ROI here is undeniable. Bringing in a camp leg and flipping him for a future pick is how smart front offices build long-term flexibility, and Pittsburgh has been playing chess this offseason while many others play checkers. The last name on the trade block, and perhaps the most contentious among fans, is Beanie Bishop. Bishop was a fan favorite during the early stages of training camp, but things quickly changed. His role slowly diminished, and the final blow came when he suffered an injury just before the 3rd preseason game. Even defensive coordinator Terrell Austin was blunt, saying Bishop needed a massive performance in that final game to secure a roster spot. That opportunity never came, and now it's clear Bishop is not making the 53-man roster. There's hope in Pittsburgh that they can stash him on the practice squad, but even that isn't a sure thing. The front office seems to prefer keeping Dante Kent as the developmental corner, and unless they can flip Bishop for a late-rounder, he's likely headed to waivers. Still, Bishop's 5 interceptions last season will catch the attention of some DB-needy team, and the Steelers might be able to pull off a minor miracle and turn him into a pick instead of just letting him walk. All 3 of these trade candidates, Thompson, Leal, and Whiteman, represent different tiers of value, but the consistent theme here is that the Steelers are willing to make moves. They're not sitting sitting back and hoping things work out. They're actively pursuing ways to better position this team for success, both now and in the future. But what about the wide receiver situation? That's been the most pressing concern all offseason, and now, just days before the roster is finalized, the Steelers are staring down a depth chart that includes DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, Scotty Miller, and Ben Skoranek. It's a group with flashes of potential but no true WR2. And that's a problem for an offense led by a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers made runs at several names: Gabe Davis, Terry McLaurin, Chris Olave, but none materialized. Davis had lingering knee issues that reportedly turned the Steelers off during a second round of medical checks. McLaurin wanted WR1 treatment in both money and role, something Pittsburgh wasn't willing to guarantee with Metcalf in the room. Olave and others were either too expensive or unavailable due to injury. And now, the options are thin. Odell Beckham Jr. is being whispered as a possibility, but that's less of a solution and more of a band-aid on a bullet wound. The front office seems to be pivoting from targeting top-tier names to looking for the next underappreciated gem. Trey Palmer, Sky Moore, or even a return of Juju Smith-Schuster have all been floated internally. The strategy now appears to be find a young, misused, or forgotten wideout who could break out in Pittsburgh's system. Because the truth is, this current group doesn't inspire confidence. Scotty Miller, as WR2, is alarming. Kenneth Gainwell, or running back, looks like the third option in the passing game. Pat Freiermuth is invisible, and Jonnu Smith is banged up. Only Darnell Washington has flashed consistently as a matchup nightmare, but even that won't be enough unless the wideouts step up. So here we are, after 3 months of speculation, rumors, and near deals. The ride is pulling into the station, and it's hard not to feel like something is missing. The Steelers' offense has potential, but the wide receiver group could be the Achilles heel of the season. Unless Omar Khan pulls off a surprise in the coming days, Aaron Rodgers is going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting. And at 41, that's a tough ask. So what do you think, Steelers Nation? Should the team pull the trigger on these trades? Should they risk it all on an improving receiver? Or ride with what they've got? Let me know in the comments. And if we're being brutally honest, Steelers Nation, it's not just about getting another body in that wide receiver room. It's about getting someone who can actually make a difference. Right now, the Steelers are dangerously close to opening the season with a group of receivers that wouldn't strike fear into any opposing secondary. We've seen this story before, a legendary quarterback being asked to elevate an average unit. But Aaron Rodgers isn't 28 anymore. He's not even 38. He needs help, not just placeholders. That's why this next week is critical. It's not just about who makes the final 53. It's about whether Pittsburgh chooses to be aggressive and make one more move that could tilt the balance of this offense. Whether it's a young, undervalued guy like Trey Palmer or Sky Moore, or even a calculated risk on someone like Odell Beckham Jr., the front office has to bring in more than just depth. They need real production. They need someone who defenses actually have to respect. As it stands, confidence in the offense is shaky. The line is improved, the defense is elite, but the weapons, outside of Metcalf and maybe Calvin Austin, there's a real lack of firepower. The preseason optimism has given way to cautious realism, and unless something changes quickly, the Steelers are going to head into week 1 asking far too much of a 41-year-old QB and a defense that will be forced to carry the load once again. We've seen Omar Khan work magic before. This is his moment to do it again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a beat. Click the video on your screen now for more Steelers coverage, roster updates, trade breakdowns, and everything black and gold. The biggest stories break here first.